What if Rimuru we are pirates One Piece X Tensura? By KyleBayan. Wealth, fame, power. Gol D Roger, the king of the pirates, obtained this, and everything else the world had to offer, and his dying words drove countless souls to the sea, marking the beginning of the great pirate era. Join Monkey D. Luffy, a boy who ate the gum fruit, and his twin sister Monkey D. Rimuru, a girl, who ate the slime fruit on their adventure across the sea to search for the One Piece. Chapter 16. The Island with No King. After the chaotic storm, the crew chose to ignore the eternal pose and followed the log pose instead to find their next island. A day had passed, and the crew now found themselves sailing through calm, yet snowy weather. Zoro was up in the crow's nest, scanning the horizon for signs of land. Down on the deck, Luffy called out, "Hey Zoro, have you seen any doctors yet?" Usopp sighed, adjusting his goggles. "You can't be serious." After a few moments, Zoro spotted something highly unusual. He called down to the deck, "Hey guys, what do you think about people standing on water?" Luffy tilted his head. "What do I think it's possible?" Rimuru shrugged. "That's an odd question." "That's completely impossible," Usopp yelled. Zoro pointed outward. "Oh yeah, then what's that?" "Huh," Rimuru muttered. "What's what?" asked Luffy. "Say what?" Usopp squinted. Rimuru, Luffy, and Usopp all looked in the direction Zoro was pointing. To their absolute shock, a man was standing right on top of the water. Confused by what they were seeing, the three of them rubbed their eyes and looked again. The mysterious man waved cheerfully. "Hello, it sure is chilly today." Luffy nodded, shivering a bit. "Yeah, it is chilly today." "Definitely it is chilly," Usopp agreed, wrapping his arms around himself. "In fact, I'd say it's freezing." Rimuru looked up at the sky. "Well, it is snowing." "Really?" the man asked. Suddenly, the water began to churn violently. Something massive emerged from beneath the mysterious person. Luffy screamed, "What is that thing, a watermelon?" "A sea king," Rimuru exclaimed. But as the waves finally died down, the true form of the massive structure was revealed. Zoro's eyes widened. "What the hell is that? Is it a ship?" The structure opened up, revealing itself to be a massive pirate ship. Usopp panicked, clutching his head. "Oh crap, it's a pirate ship." A horde of armed men stood on the deck of the enemy vessel, with a heavily rotund man standing at the front of the crowd. Rimuru drew their weapon. "Everyone get ready for a fight." "Right," Zoro and Luffy shouted in unison. The round man boarded the Going Merry, along with a group of his subordinates, quickly surrounding the crew. The leader let out a loud, booming laugh. "Mahahaha, what's the matter? Don't tell me our underwater raid ship, the Tin Tyrant, surprised you, Mahahaha." Just then Sanji barged out from the ship's cabin. "Hey, what's going on?" Taking a look at the strangers, Sanji calmed down and lit a cigarette. He took a drag and exhaled smoke. "So, what's going on?" Luffy pointed around. "Well, we're under attack and it's still snowing." Sanji looked at the weapons aimed at him. "The guns pointing at my face kinda gave it away. What next?" The round leader began loudly munching on something. "You all consider yourselves a band of pirates. How amusing. I only count 5 of you." To everyone's horror, the man bit right into the metal knife he was holding and started eating it. Everyone except Rimuru was completely shocked that the guy just devoured a blade. The man swallowed the metal and scoffed. "It's sort of strange that your group has so few members." Rimuru stepped forward defiantly. "So what if our group is small?" The man finished eating the rest of the knife, and then began openly ogling Rimuru. Luffy pointed at him. "That's just weird. This guy can eat stuff like Rimuru." Usopp winced, holding his jaw. "ACK, my gums are bleeding just by watching him." The round man then glanced over the rest of the crew. "All right, I'll keep this simple. See, my men and I wish to travel to the Drum Kingdom. You wouldn't happen to have an eternal pose or a log pose, would ya? Sanji shrugged. Sorry, we can't help you. I've never even heard of this Drum Kingdom. Rimuru waved a hand dismissively. If that's all you guys wanted, then leave already. Yeah, we are in a hurry, Luffy added. We don't have time to deal with all this. The man smiled wickedly. You'll never enjoy life if you're always in a rush. And speaking of enjoying life, he glanced at Rimuru with a lustful look. My name is Wapol, and why don't you come with me and be my bride? Rimuru gave Wapol a look of pure disgust. With a hippo like you, no way. Wapol's face fell. Now don't be like that. Okay, now I'm starting to get hungry. Without warning, Wapol leaned down and bit right into the railing of the Going Merry. He ripped off a massive piece of wood and began chewing it up. Usopp shrieked, he's a Shipping monster. Hey, Rimuru and Luffy yelled together, our ship, your lunch. Instantly, several guns were pointed directly at Luffy and Rimuru. The first soldier yelled, be quiet. Lord Wapol doesn't like to be disturbed while he's eating. Luffy and Rimuru didn't hesitate. They instantly knocked out the nearby soldiers, and a full-scale fight broke out on the deck. Rimuru leaped across the gap, landing squarely on Wapol's ship. You eat our ship, then I'll eat yours, Rimuru declared. More guns were pointed at Rimuru. The second soldier shouted, halt, what do you think you're doing on our ship? Another prominent crew member yelled, fool, do you have a death wish? Rimuru smirked, no payback. In a flash, Rimuru transformed into a slime, growing to a massive size. The slime body enveloped the figurehead and a massive portion of the deck, rapidly dissolving Wapol's ship. The enemy soldiers began to scream in terror. She's a Shipping monster. Every soldier tried shooting and stabbing at the slime, but all of their bullets and steel blades were effortlessly dissolved upon contact. Back on the Going Merry, Rimuru's distraction allowed the rest of the crew to easily beat up the remaining boarders. Wapol, completely oblivious, was still ignoring everything around him as he chewed on the Merry's woodwork. Luffy grew incredibly angry. You're still eating. Just then, a frantic soldier from Wapol's ship yelled across, Sir Wapol, there's a ship-eating monster on our ship. Wapol paused, blinking stupidly. Confused by the report of someone else eating a ship, Wapol looked back at his own vessel and saw a giant slime dissolving his deck. Wapol shrieked, what the hell is that? It's EATINGMY's ship. Luffy wound his arms back. Hey, YOU, leave. Wapol glanced back at Luffy, his eyes widening as he realized both of Luffy's arms were stretched incredibly far back. Gum gum, bazooka, Luffy roared. GYAHHH, Wapol screamed as the double palm strike hit him dead center. Wapol was sent flying far into the distance, leaving his entire crew completely frozen in shock. Rimuru reformed back into human shape and landed gracefully back on the Merry. Looks like it's over. The second prominent crew member started to panic. This is bad. He sent Lord Wapol flying into the ocean. The first one panicked even harder. Bad. It's worse. It's a disaster. Lord Wapol can't swim. He's gonna drown. He turned and yelled to the remaining forces. Recall the troops. There's no time to waste. We have to rescue him before he sinks to the bottom. All of the remaining enemy soldiers on the Going Merry scrambled back to their own ship. The second leader shook his fist threateningly. This is far from over. You'll pay. I promise you'll pay. The first one added, you're dead, you got that. Rimuru crossed their arms and taunted them. Are you just gonna keep talking and let your boss sink? Realizing the clock was ticking, Wapol's pirate crew immediately steered their ship and hurried off in Wapol's direction. The first leader yelled one last time, we'll get you for this. Once Wapol's crew was finally gone, the Straw Hats resumed sailing toward their destination. Usopp sighed, leaning against the railing. Wow, crazy, those guys were really upset. Rimuru countered, they're upset. They started it by eating our ship. Usopp thought for a moment. What did they call that old garbage can again? Wapao. Sanji waved his hand dismissively. Who cares about what his name was? Don't worry about it. The guy is obviously a moron, it's best to just forget about it. Vivi stood quietly to the side, muttering to herself, I know him, but from where? Rimuru turned to her. What was that, Vivi? Vivi shook her head, unable to place the memory. After spending more time sailing and repairing the damage done to the Going Merry, the crew eventually spotted an island on the horizon. Luffy cheered, it's a snow island. Sanji stepped in front of him, looking serious. Luffy, wait. Just so there's no misunderstanding between us, we're stopping to find Nami a doctor. We're not here to have an adventure. Are we clear? Luffy stared past him, his eyes sparkling. I love snow, it's so white. Sanji slumped his shoulders. It's no use, he's gone. Usopp began trembling violently. Hold on. Are you sure it's a good idea? There could be snow monsters. Besides, we don't even know if there are people there or not. Oh no, I think I'm getting a don't go to the island disease. Rimuru patted Sanji's shoulder. No use dwelling on it now, Sanji. Guess you're right, Sanji sighed. As they drew close to the snowy shores, the entire crew, except for Luffy, changed into heavy winter clothes. Rimuru changed into a cozy winter outfit as well. The crew then steered the ship upstream along a river, hoping to stumble upon a town. Usopp looked over at Luffy, who was still in his regular vest and shorts. Hey Luffy, aren't you cold dressed like that? Vivi checked the thermometer. It's 10 degrees below freezing out here. That's when bears get ready to hibernate. Luffy blinked, pausing as the temperature finally registered. He began shivering violently. Cold. Sanji and Usopp snapped back irritably. You just figured that out. Luffy immediately leaped forward and latched onto Rimuru like a koala. Rimuru, it's cold. Rimuru let out a heavy sigh. Fine. Rimuru transformed into a large slime, and their internal temperature began to warm up and bubble. Luffy snuggled into the warmth. Nice and warm. Rimuru began carrying Luffy into the ship's cabin, calling out, Next time, get a coat. After getting Luffy bundled up in a warm coat, the ship finally came to a stop at what appeared to be a frozen dead end. Vivi looked around. This may provide a good spot to disembark. Zoro stretched his arms. Okay guys, doctor search who's in. I guess we have to find people here first. I'm in, Luffy shouted. Me too, Sanji agreed. Usopp waved from the deck. Bye, go have fun. Rimuru turned to Zoro. I suggest you stay on the ship to keep watch, Zoro. Zoro raised an eyebrow. Why is that? In case someone comes here to mess with the ship like those guys, Rimuru explained, pointing toward the snowy banks. A large crowd of armed locals had suddenly emerged from the trees, surrounding the Going Merry with guns raised. A loud voice yelled, That's far enough, pirates. Usopp shrieked, Kyhh. Luffy grinned, that was easy. Rimuru sighed, too bad they aren't friendly. Suddenly, a large, imposing man in a green coat stepped forward from the crowd. I'll only say this once. Your kind is not welcome here. Leave immediately. Luffy called out, We only came here to find a doctor. We have someone who's very sick, Vivi added. The first villager shouted back, You have to do better than that. We won't fall for that old trick. A second villager yelled, This is our island. We won't let any filthy pirates land here. A third one raised his rifle. Rise anchor and leave now, or we'll blow you and your ship out of the water. Sanji muttered, That's great. We barely said hello and they already hate us. Get out of here, the first villager roared, firing a warning shot that narrowly missed Sanji. Usopp ducked, look out. Sanji's face darkened with anger. Big mistake. Sanji tried to charge at the man who had fired, but Vivi quickly grabbed him, holding him back. Sanji, stop. Seeing the movement, the villager panicked and fired another bullet, this one aimed directly at Vivi. Rimuru moved in a blur, drawing their sword and coating it in haki to perfectly block the bullet. The metal deflected away harmlessly. Rimuru glared fiercely at the shooter, causing the man to flinch backward. Instantly, the rest of the crowd aimed their guns directly at Rimuru. Rimuru spoke in a calm, cold voice. If you don't want us to land, then that's fine. We won't. But we really need a doctor. We'd rather not cause any trouble, so if any of you pull a trigger again, we'll have no choice but to retaliate. Seeing the tension rising, Vivi unexpectedly dropped to her knees and prostrated herself in the snow to beg. Please call a doctor. Our friend is dying from a serious illness. I'm begging you. Please help us. Rimuru glanced over at Luffy. Luffy, stay right there and listen. Luffy looked down at Vivi. Rimuru explained quietly, not everything can be fixed through violence. These people have gone through a lot given their reaction to pirates like us. We can't get into a fight. If we do, we won't be able to get Nami a doctor. Luffy nodded solemnly. His gaze went back to the crowd and he dropped into a deep bow alongside Vivi. Please help us call a doctor. Our friend needs you. After a long, heavy moment of silence, the leader in the green coat acknowledged their sincerity. He lowered his weapon. I'll show you to our village. Follow me. One of his men gasped, Be but Dalton. Dalton replied firmly, It's fine. I'll take full responsibility for whatever they do. With that, Dalton turned and began walking away. Rimuru smiled slightly at Luffy. See, it's better to ask first before doing anything. Right, Luffy agreed. Afterward, the group made their way toward the nearby village, leaving Zoro and Karoo behind to guard the ship. As they walked through the snowy woods, Dalton spoke up. There is one thing I feel like I should warn you about. The only doctor we have around here is actually a witch. Rimuru blinked. A witch, Usopp gasped. Sanji complained, You've got to be kidding me. Everything on this island is messed up. What do you people call this place anyway? Dalton looked forward. Actually, this island still doesn't have a name. Vivi looked surprised. An island without a name. I didn't know that was even possible. As the group kept walking, a massive bear suddenly emerged from the trees. Usopp shrieked, a bear. Rimuru raised an eyebrow. Whoa, that bear is huge. Everyone hurry up and pretend to be dead. Usopp screamed, instantly falling flat on his face in the snow. Dalton kept walking calmly. It's a hiking bear. It poses no threat. Don't forget to bow its proper manners. The rest of the group politely bowed to the bear as it walked past. They continued on their way, while Rimuru openly laughed at Usopp's massive overreaction. Meanwhile, back at the ship, Karoo was shivering uncontrollably in the freezing cold. Zoro, on the other hand, was getting incredibly bored. Zoro stretched his neck. Hey bird, I'm going for some ice water swimming. I'll be right back. Karoo squawked in absolute horror, quack. Zoro completely ignored the bird's concern, stripped off his heavy coat and shirt, and dove straight into the freezing cold river. Back with the main group, they had finally arrived at a settlement. Dalton called it Bighorn Village. Luffy pointed around excitedly. Rimuru, look at all the weird animals walking around everywhere. Usopp, now back on his feet, shrugged. Well, yeah, this is a snow country. Rimuru pointed toward a clearing. Look at that, it's a woolly hippo. Cool, Luffy cheered. Sanji looked back toward the stretcher they were carrying. Look, Nami, a village with people. We're here. Dalton turned to the villagers who had followed them. Thanks for the help, everyone. If you're not a guard, you can return to your work. The first villager asked hesitantly, Are you certain that you will be all right here, Dalton? The second one glared at the newcomers. They are pirates after all. Dalton smiled faintly. I believe these people mean us no harm. It's my hunch anyway, trust me on that. The townspeople dispersed, despite having mixed opinions about the pirates. Vivi walked up beside Dalton. You mean those men weren't your official land security forces? Rimuru nodded. It was obvious from the way that one guy shot at Sanji. Dalton nodded in confirmation. Good observation. Yes, they're just ordinary citizens. Come to my house for now. Usopp suddenly pointed down the street. Hey, look at that. It's one of those hiking bears again. Luffy spun around. Another one. Without looking closely, Luffy and Usopp immediately bowed deeply toward a local woman who was simply carrying a bag of groceries. Rimuru sighed, walking up and smacking Usopp in the head, before smacking Luffy in the head using a gentle touch of armament haki. That was rude, Rimuru scolded. The crew followed Dalton into his house, passing by several villagers who warmly greeted their security captain. Once inside, they carefully placed Nami onto a warm bed. Dalton turned to them. I guess I should introduce myself properly. My name is Dalton, and I'm the captain of the island's security. Please forgive our less-than-friendly welcome. Rimuru waved it off. Don't worry about it. We are pirates, so we understand the reaction. Yeah, Luffy added. Water under the bridge. Dalton sat down in a chair and glanced over at Vivi, studying her face. May I ask you a question? Vivi blinked. Dalton frowned slightly. It's just that you look familiar to me for some reason. Vivi flinched slightly but quickly tried to brush it off. No, I just have one of those faces, I guess. Anyway, can you tell us more about this doctor, or witch, if that's what she is? Nami's fever has gone up to 107 degrees. Dalton gasped, standing up. How long has she had it? Rimuru answered. Since about a few days ago, and it just keeps getting worse. Dalton looked grim. I see. She'll likely die if it gets any worse. Vivi's eyes welled with tears. Yes, and we have no idea what the illness is, much less how to treat it. We don't know how to help her. Sanji slammed his fist on the table. We've got to find a doctor as soon as possible. Any doctor will do. Where is this witch of yours? Dalton pointed out the window. The witch? Do you see those mountains out there? Sanji walked over. Yeah, we saw them outside earlier. As Sanji looked out, his view was immediately blocked by a giant snowman and a massive, terrifying snow monster. Luffy cheered from outside the window. Supermassive snowman. Usopp roared, and the fierce snow beast Snowzilla. Sanji popped a vein and screamed out the window. Get in here before I kill you. Sanji dragged both Luffy and Usopp back inside by their collars, where they were promptly restrained by Rimuru's sticky webs to keep them quiet. Dalton continued his explanation, ignoring the antics. Those mountains out there are known as the Drum Rockies. Do you see that castle on the largest one in the middle? Usopp peeked through the webs. A castle. Dalton bowed his head slightly. That castle has lost its king. Sanji squinted through the glass. Yeah, I see it up there. Rimuru deduced. So the witch lives there since you're bringing up the castle. That's right, Dalton replied. It is where the land's only doctor, Dr. Kureha, lives. Sanji shouted in frustration. Of all the places, why does she have to live on top of a mountain? We need to call her down here right now. Nami needs her help. Dalton shook his head. I'm sorry, but there's no way to contact her. You can't be serious, Sanji muttered. Rimuru asked, Don't you guys have any transponder snails? Dalton sighed. We unfortunately don't. Besides, even if we had one, she's an incredibly eccentric woman. She is nearly 140 years old, though her talent as a doctor is undeniable. Sanji's jaw dropped. 140. No wonder she doesn't get around much. Dalton added, "One more thing, she likes pickled plums." Rimuru raised an eyebrow. "I don't see how that's relevant." Vivi leaned forward. "What happens if people get sick or injured down here? Doesn't she help them?" Dalton explained. "She comes down the mountain whenever she feels like it. She looks around for patients, treats them, and before she leaves, she takes whatever she wants from their houses as payment." Usopp muttered, "She doesn't sound like a very nice lady." "She kind of sounds like a pirate," Luffy remarked. Vivi looked back out at the steep peaks. "But how does someone as old as she is get down from a mountain like that?" Dalton lowered his voice. "There's an odd rumor that's been going around here. Several of the villagers claim to have seen her at night, riding a sleigh of some kind across the sky. They see her silhouette when the moon is full. That's why she is thought to be a witch. There are others who say they have seen her with a strange creature, a creature no one recognizes." Usopp began to panic wildly within Rimuru's webs. "See, I told you it's a snow monster. When there's snow, there's a snow monster. I knew there would be one." Rimuru sighed. "Calm down, Usopp. She probably ate a devil fruit or she's traveling with someone who did." Dalton nodded. "Even if she is an excellent doctor, she is still a woman I'd prefer to stay away from, whether she possesses a devil fruit power or not. All we can do now is wait for the next time she decides to come down from the mountain." "Really?" Vivi asked softly. Sanji clenched his fists. "Damn it, we can't wait here for long, not when Nami is getting even worse as we speak." Luffy suddenly broke free from the webs. "If the doctor is on the mountain, then why don't we just climb the mountain?" Sanji snapped irritably. "You idiot, how do you expect to get Nami up there?" Luffy smiled confidently. "Easy, I can just carry her on my back." Vivi protested. "That's only going to make her even more sick." Rimuru countered. "We don't have much of a choice, Vivi. We need to get Nami to a doctor, or her condition is only going to get worse." Vivi looked out at the sheer cliffs. "But look at that thing, it's way too steep." Just then a strained, weak voice called out from the bed. "Guys." Everyone glanced over at Nami, who was struggling to sit up. "It's no use. Both captains have already agreed. Besides, I need to get over this thing, and quickly. We need to hurry, for Vivi." Unable to argue any further because Nami was agreeing with both Luffy and Rimuru, the group could only accept the decision. Luffy carefully lifted Nami onto his back, and Rimuru quickly secured her in place using strong, comfortable sticky threads. Usopp shook his head. "I can't believe this. Our navigator is completely crazy." Sanji looked at her softly. "You know you're in no shape for a trip like this, Nami." Vivi held Nami's hand briefly. "Are you sure you'll be okay? It will take you hours to get up there." Luffy turned to Dalton, grinning. "Hey, old guy, give me some meat for the road." Dalton blinked. "Meat." Sanji grabbed his coat. "I'm coming too." Rimuru nodded. "Sure, you can come with us. Vivi, Usopp, you two will have to stay here just in case Dr. Kureha visits the village while we're gone. That way, you can tell her to go back up to the palace, and we won't have to climb all the way back down." Usopp saluted proudly. "Right, Captain Usopp will deliver your message without fail." Vivi smiled. "Right, stay safe, everyone." Usopp looked at Luffy seriously. "Listen, Luffy, you have to be very careful. You can't fall even once or Nami's gonna die." Luffy's expression turned serious. "Huh, not even once? Fine. Now you just hold on tight to me, okay, Nami?" Dalton walked them to the door. "I'm not going to stop you from going, but I should advise you to climb from the other side of the mountain. Avoid the Lapons that live on this side." Rimuru tilted their head. "Lapons?" Dalton warned them. "They're fierce, carnivorous rabbits. If you run into a pack of them, you're as good as dead." Luffy grinned. "Really, but we gotta get up there." Rimuru smiled confidently. "We'll be fine, Dalton. All three of us are strong fighters." Dalton looked completely shocked. You can't be serious. You know how easily those things can kill you. Luffy laughed, running out the door. Nah, Rimuru said we'll be all right, so we'll be fine. Come on, let's go. Rimuru quickly followed right behind him. Luffy called back over his shoulder, come on, Sanji, or else Nami's gonna die. Sanji chased after them irritably. Don't jinx us, you idiot. Dalton, Usopp, and Vivi watched from the doorway as the three strong fighters and their sick navigator rushed toward the massive peaks. Dalton murmured, Are you sure they'll be all right? Usopp smirked, crossing his arms. Well, we don't need to worry about those three. Vivi watched them go, her eyes filled with worry. Nami's the one in trouble. I just hope their strength can hold out long enough. She's getting sicker by the minute. The three remaining companions watched the mountain trail, silently praying that their friends would reach the castle in time. Chapter 17. Search for a Doctor. After Rimuru, Luffy, Nami, and Sanji vanished from view into the tree line, Dalton warmly invited Vivi and Usopp inside his house to escape the cold. However, they firmly refused to leave the porch. Seeing the raw determination and deep worry shining in their eyes, Dalton decided he couldn't leave them out here alone. Dalton tightened his coat. I see. Well, in that case, I'll join you. Vivi and Usopp genuinely appreciated his concern and nodded, allowing him to stand watch with them. As they watched the snow fall, Dalton spoke up quietly. We did have some excellent doctors here, however. They were forced to leave some time ago for certain reasons. They were incredibly skilled with what they did while they were still here. In fact, we were once well known across the seas for our advanced medical practices on this island. Vivi turned to him, curious. So, what went wrong? Dalton's gaze drifted to the ground. A few months ago, we suffered a vicious attack and our entire country was destroyed, completely destroyed, by pirates. Vivi and Usopp gasped, absolutely shocked by the revelation. Usopp clutched his head. Man, the whole country. So that's the reason you all acted that way when we first showed up, Vivi realized softly. Dalton sighed. Yes. After that incident, the very word pirate still terrifies the people on this island. I truly am sorry for the way we treated you. Their group was incredibly small as well, consisting of only 5 people. Their captain called himself Blackbeard. Their power was so terrifyingly great that they destroyed our entire country in only a week. Vivi shook her head in disbelief. And there were only 5 of them fighting. That's impossible. Usopp's voice trembled, his knees shaking. Be Blackbeard. Dalton continued. What's more, there are actually some people here who believe that the attack was a good thing for the country. Vivi looked horrified. What could possibly be good about that happening? That's completely crazy, Usopp yelled. Who would say something like that anyway? Dalton gave the two a faint, melancholy smile, deeply thankful that they were voicing such genuine concern for his people. Thank you, but they have their reasons. The king who ruled this land was a horrible, cruel man. His rule was despised by every single one of his citizens. Our country used to be known as the Drum Kingdom, and our king's name was Wapol. He is the worst king imaginable. The two travelers froze in sheer surprise. The realization hit them like a tidal wave. The bizarre man who had attacked their ship earlier was actually the exiled king of this very island. Vivi's eyes widened. I remember him. I know that man. Not Wapol, Usopp gasped. Dalton stared at them, completely shocked that the duo recognized the name. What's that? You mean you actually know who Wapol is? Usopp puffed out his chest, trying to sound brave. Know who he is. We know more than that. He's the pirate that attacked our ship not too long ago, but of course I was easily able to take care of him. Now that I think of it, though, he did mention something about heading back to the Drum Kingdom. Vivi nodded seriously. Yes, there's no question about it now. I remember it clearly. I'm absolutely certain I met him once during the Reverie, the Grand Council where my father took me years ago. I was still very young then, but I remember his face to this day." Dalton took a step back, staring intensely at Vivi. "The Reverie, just who are you?" Vivi flinched, realizing she had almost given away her identity. "Oh, well, the point is, we do know Wapol. We ran into him just yesterday when we were on our way here." "Yesterday?" Dalton yelled, his eyes wide. "Are you absolutely sure about that?" Vivi frowned, thinking it over. "But I don't understand what's going on here. He said he was a pirate. He didn't mention anything about being a king." Dalton gripped his fists tightly. He's probably calling himself a pirate as some kind of disguise. In truth, Wapol is only wandering the seas, trying desperately to find a way to return and reclaim this island. Vivi looked down, piecing the puzzle together. So, Wapol and the people on that ship were kicked off the island because they were no match for Blackbeard's pirates. Is that what happened? Dalton's expression grew incredibly dark, a fierce anger burning in his eyes upon hearing Vivi's guess. "That's not it, no. When it happened, when we were attacked, Wapol's royal army didn't even attempt to fight. In fact, the exact second he learned how powerful those pirates were, Wapol grabbed his closest cronies, and he was the absolute first to abandon the country and flee into the sea. After that, the country fell into utter despair." Dalton let out a fierce snarl. "We were left behind to die by our own king." Vivi's face contorted with absolute rage. What sort of king would do that to his country? A king abandoning his own people. Just the thought of it makes me absolutely sick. Dalton nodded firmly. "You're exactly right. The only good thing that came from that horrific attack was the immediate end of Wapol's tyrannical rule. The people of this island have come together now, trying their best to build a new, free country. So, what we fear most right now is the return of Wapol and his loyal followers, the return of his tyranny. We cannot afford to let him come back while the country is still so unstable. It would be the absolute end of us. We just want to build a peaceful, new nation on this island." Meanwhile, somewhere out in the freezing ocean, Wapol's crew had successfully rescued him from drowning. Furious and dripping wet, Wapol immediately ordered his men to track down the Straw Hat pirates for revenge. Wapol sat on the deck, angrily devouring a massive lunch while his soldiers worked frantically to repair the ship after Rimuru had dissolved most of it. During the chaotic repairs, one of his main scouts, Chess, suddenly spotted land from the crow's nest. "Lord Wapol, come quickly," Chess shouted down. Wapol chewed aggressively, shouting back, "What is it now, Chess? Have you found that pirate ship yet?" Chess began crying tears of absolute joy. "No, that isn't it, Lord Wapol. At long last, we're finally home." Wapol gasped, dropping his food. "We have." Chess wiped his eyes. "How many long months have passed with us wandering the sea? That's our homeland, the Drum Kingdom." Upon hearing the news, Wapol's soldiers burst into loud cheering. Wapol grinned wickedly, a dark smile spreading across his face. "It truly is. All right, men, full speed ahead." Back at Dalton's house, the atmosphere grew heavy. As if on cue with the dark mood, a sudden, violent winter blizzard swept in, causing the wind to howl fiercely around the porch. Usopp wrapped his arms around himself, shivering. "The snow is really starting to pick up, huh?" Vivi looked up toward the mountains, silently praying, "Nami, please just be okay." Dalton broke the silence, looking closely at the two. "Tell me something. Who are you guys, really?" Usopp looked at him defensively. "Why do you ask that?" Dalton replied honestly. "You're a group traveling through the dangerous Grand Line with only 7 people, on a ship without an official doctor. It seems incredibly reckless." Usopp scoffed, trying to brush off his fear. "In case you forgot, we're pirates. That's the whole reason your guys were pointing those guns at us, remember? True, we may be a small group, but with a brave warrior of the sea like me on board, there's absolutely nothing to fear from anyone or anything." Dalton blinked slowly, entirely deadpan. Okay. Suddenly, a local woman approached the porch in a hurry. Hello, Dalton. I was looking for you. Usopp, still on high alert for snow monsters, completely mistook the bundled-up woman for a hiking bear. He instantly dropped into a rigid, terrified bow to show proper manners. Dalton ignored Usopp's panic and turned to the woman. What can I do for you? The woman sighed out a breath of steam. I heard those newcomers are looking for Dr. Kureha. Yes, Dalton responded, but the sick woman's friends have already taken her up the mountain to the castle. The woman gasped. Oh, that's terrible news. I just came from the next town, and I heard that the doctor is actually down in Cocoa Weed Village right now. Usopp, Vivi, and Dalton all gasped in total shock. She's where? Usopp panicked, grabbing his hair. So Nami and the others already passed her. High up on the slopes of the mountain, the climbing group was having a miserable time. As they ran, they were completely caught in the blinding, freezing blizzard. Luffy braced himself against the wind, carrying Nami tightly. It feels like it has gotten way colder. The wind is picking up too. Sanji looked down at Luffy's feet and snapped irritably. So why don't you think about putting on real shoes? Even just looking at your bare feet is painful. Luffy pouted, marching forward. No way, this is my police. Sanji raised an eyebrow. Your police? Rimuru, running alongside them, offered a correction. It's policy, Luffy, not police. Yeah, that, Luffy grinned. He then turned back to Sanji, his eyes wide with a strange thought. Hey Sanji, did you know that people who live in snow countries never sleep? At all? Sanji groaned. Why? Because if they fall asleep, they'll freeze to death, Luffy explained solemnly. Sanji rolled his eyes. Don't be an idiot. Everyone has to sleep sometimes. It's the absolute truth, Luffy insisted. Someone told me a long time ago. Suddenly, a massive rabbit with razor-sharp fangs and terrifying claws leaped out from the deep snow, launching a vicious ambush. Rimuru, Luffy, and Sanji moved in perfect sync, dodging the flying attack effortlessly while maintaining their running pace. Rimuru called out, Luffy, I think whoever told you that meant that people shouldn't fall asleep when they're lost in a blizzard. People can go to sleep perfectly safely if they're inside a warm house. Sanji nodded as he ran. Yeah, that would actually make sense. The aggressive rabbit tried to pounce again, but the group smoothly evaded it a second time, leaving the frustrated creature landing face first in the snow. Sanji smirked, adjusting his coat. Then, did you know that women in snowy countries have skin as smooth as silk? Luffy looked intrigued. How come? The angry bunny kept attacking over and over, but the trio continued to casually dodge every single swipe. Sanji smiled dreamily. Isn't it obvious? Allow me to explain. When you get cold, you rub your skin to warm it up, right? Since it's always freezing cold in snowy countries like this, the women are constantly rubbing their skin all the time. That's why it becomes all beautifully white and silky smooth. Luffy dodged another swipe. Okay, then how come it's white? Sanji moved gracefully out of the way of a claw strike. Because of the snow, it's constantly falling all over them, so it dyes their skin white. Luffy dodged and looked at him deadpan. Do you know you're really dumb, right? Rimuru dodged a lunge and chimed in, agreeing completely with Luffy. Yeah, Sanji, snow is just frozen water. There's no way water can turn someone's skin white. The rabid creature tried to launch a final, desperate attack, but Sanji had finally had enough. He spun around, delivering a powerful kick directly to the rabbit's face, sending it flying deep into the forest. Sanji yelled angrily, You're a pain in the ass. Rimuru shook their head. Don't bully the poor bunny, Sanji. It probably just wants to play. Luffy complained, but that guy was so annoying. Can't he see that we don't have any time to play? It's probably just lonely, Rimuru sighed. They continued sprinting up the path until they suddenly skidded to a halt. Blocking their path entirely was a massive, terrifying horde of giant, muscular bunnies. Rimuru looked closely, pointing toward a smaller rabbit sitting squarely on the shoulder of a massive beast with a prominent scar on its face. "Hey Sanji," Rimuru noted, "isn't that the little bunny you just punted earlier?" Sanji's face fell. "Yeah, but what on earth are those giant things?" Luffy's eyes went wide. "Well, they're big and white, so they must be polar bears." Rimuru groaned. "No, I think those are the Lapons that Dalton warned us about." Without warning, one of the massive Lapons pounced directly at the group with terrifying speed. "Look out!" Sanji shouted. All three safely dodged the crashing impact. Sanji stared in disbelief as the snow exploded. "Seriously, how can a rabbit move like that? Is it a gorilla?" Luffy argued, "No, it's a polar bear." Sanji snapped back irritably, "It's a rabbit." Luffy looked confused. "How did you go from gorilla to rabbit?" Rimuru yelled over the wind, "I literally just told you two, they're Lapons." Sanji looked around at the closing circle. "In any case, there sure are a lot of them." On Luffy's back, Nami let out a weak, shivering whisper, Right." Luffy's expression softened. "Just rest, Nami, we'll handle this." "Yeah, hang in there a little longer, Nami," Sanji added softly. Rimuru stepped to the front. "Get on my back. We need to get past them and reach the doctor quickly." In a flash of light, Rimuru transformed into a giant slime, rapidly changing shape and expanding until they became a massive Brachiosaurus dinosaur. Luffy cheered, "Right." Luffy, still carrying Nami, quickly scrambled up onto Rimuru's massive back alongside Sanji. With a thunderous stride, Rimuru began moving forward as fast as their giant dinosaur legs could carry them. Several Lapons lunged through the air to attack, but Rimuru coated their massive dinosaur hide in hard armament haki, causing the creature's sharp claws and teeth to harmlessly spark against them. Safe on top, Luffy playfully stuck his tongue out at the frustrated rabbits. "Heh." Seeing the taunt, the Lapons grew absolutely furious, letting out a deafening, unified roar that shook the trees. "Rachachachachachachach," the flock screamed. The giant rabbits began leaping incredibly high into the air to bring them down. Reacting instantly, Sanji dropped into a handstand on Rimuru's back, spinning his legs like a top. "Party table kick course," Sanji roared. His rapid-fire kick struck every single leaping Lapon squarely in the face, sending them crashing back down into the snow drift. Sanji snapped irritably at Luffy. "Did you seriously have to taunt them, you idiot?" Rimuru yelled back from their massive dinosaur head, "Just focus on keeping Nami safe, Luffy." Luffy looked down, feeling a bit guilty. "Sorry." Meanwhile, down below, after learning that Dr. Kureha was actually in the neighboring village, Dalton quickly prepared a traveling sleigh. He began speeding toward Cocoa Weed Village, taking Usopp and Vivi along with him. Dalton drove the sleigh hard, looking filled with regret. "This is entirely my mistake. I was fully aware that Dr. Kureha had been coming down to the towns over the last few days, but I assumed she had already left and wouldn't be back for quite some time." Usopp yelled over the rushing wind, "Don't worry about it, Dalton. It isn't your fault at all. Honestly, I'm just incredibly glad that Rimuru had the foresight to split us up. Since we can't reach Luffy and the others to tell them, at least we can find the doctor ourselves and tell her she has a patient on the way." Vivi nodded, holding onto the sleigh. "That's completely true. I hadn't even considered what we would do if the doctor wasn't at the castle, so I'm really impressed with Rimuru's foresight." Dalton looked down solemnly. "Forgive us. Please forgive this land for not having more doctors." "Don't say that," Vivi comforted him gently. "This isn't something you should ever be apologizing for, Dalton." "She's right about that," Usopp agreed. Dalton tightened his grip on the reins. "Let's hurry." As they rode through the snow, Usopp began pondering Dalton's demeanor. You know, Dalton, you still haven't told us who you really are. It doesn't seem like you're just an ordinary villager. The disciplined way you speak makes me think of a high-ranking military officer. Dalton remained quiet for a moment before answering. You're correct. I did serve this country officially under our former tyrant Wapol. With a heavy heart, Dalton began explaining his past to the duo. He described how he had proudly served Wapol's honorable father, and then, unfortunately, Wapol himself. He went on to describe the horrific suffering Wapol had inflicted on the citizens of the Drum Kingdom. Wapol had cruelly rounded up the top 20 medical experts on the island for his own personal use, calling them the 20 MDs. He then ordered the execution or exile of every other doctor on the island, forcing the citizens to beg the king on their knees for a slim chance at medical treatment. The sheer horror and deep disgust in Dalton's voice made it blindingly clear to Vivi and Usopp just how carelessly tyrannical Wapol truly was. Vivi's blood ran cold. So basically, Wapol was ruling the country by taking his own citizens' lives hostage. That's not ruling at all. What kind of a king would do that? It's pure tyranny. Dalton glanced back at Vivi over his shoulder, studying her fierce reaction. Looking at her noble spirit, he silently came to a shocking conclusion about her true identity. Meanwhile, back at the frozen shore where the Going Merry was docked, Zoro had officially stripped off his heavy winter shirt to begin his intense training. He shivered violently, his teeth clicking together. It's absolutely freezing out here, and my body is going completely numb. I feel like a literal popsicle. Looks like I have a lot more rigorous training to do if I want to conquer this weather. Hey Karoo, you want to come down here and jump in with me? It's a great way to get your bird body into tip-top shape. Karoo's eyes went wide and he began violently shaking. QQ quack. The terrified duck slammed his eyes shut and shook his head rapidly, firmly rejecting Zoro's insane offer. But when Karoo finally opened his eyes, Zoro was already completely gone from the deck. Karoo panicked, screaming, quack. Assuming that Zoro had instantly passed out from the cold and was currently drifting helplessly downstream, Karoo bravely dove straight into the freezing river to rescue the swordsman before he could drown. In reality, the moment Karoo had shut his eyes, Zoro had simply jumped into the water and swam off on his own. Eventually, Zoro climbed out of the water further down the river, but quickly realized he was completely lost. As he wandered through the snowy trees, he suddenly encountered an eccentric old lady riding in a sleigh drawn by a single reindeer. Zoro gasped in relief. I'm saved. Hey, old lady, sorry to bother you, but do you think you could drop me off at a village nearby or something? As he walked closer, Zoro took a proper look at her and was completely taken aback by her incredibly revealing, youthful clothing. Whoa, what on earth are you doing dressed like that in this freezing weather? I've seen some weird old ladies before, but you're... Before Zoro could finish his sentence, the old lady gestured with her finger for him to come closer. Curious and wondering what she was going to say, Zoro leaned in. The old woman glared, her voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. Be very careful how you talk to me, little boy. Zoro blinked. In a flash of pure comedic violence, the old lady launched a powerful punch that sent Zoro flying deep into a snowbank. She dusted off her hands. I'm 139 years old and I am still incredibly young and strong. Let's go, Chopper. That boy is clearly some kind of freak. With a whip of the reins, she sped off, leaving a bruised Zoro sitting alone in the deep snow. Zoro popped a vein, screaming after her angrily, Come back here. What the hell is her problem? Dumb old hag. With no other options left, Zoro grumbled, picking himself up to continue his training to stay warm while searching for a way out of the woods. Down on the shore of Drum Island, a dark shadow had officially arrived. Wapol and his forces had successfully landed their ship on the coast, ruthlessly striking down the few innocent citizens who had been watching the shoreline. Wapol threw his head back, laughing boisterously. Mehehaha, we have arrived at last. After all this time wandering, I have finally returned to the Drum Kingdom. I'm finally home. His subordinate, Chess, smirked, looking at the fallen locals. Heh, were they actually trying to form a real military resistance, Rimuru? Rimuru chuckled darkly. Dunno, they're just a bunch of pathetic idiots and amateurs. What on earth were they thinking, shooting at us like that? Wapol looked up at the massive peaks. Oh, my dear Drum Island, your towering majesty has grown even more beautiful in my absence. Chess, is my royal castle still all right? Chess squinted up at the highest peak. Yes, Lord Wapol, it looks just as grand as the day we left it. It's completely perfect. Wapol grinned. Well, what are we waiting for? Let's go home, boys. I'm officially done playing pirate. I'm going to be the king again. Onward, Robson. Wapol's soldiers began to march, but Wapol's personal woolly hippo, Robson, stubbornly refused to move a single inch. Wapol snapped, kicking the animal. Robson, move. Why are you just standing here? Robson simply grunted. Get moving already, Wapol roared. Suddenly, a frantic scout ran up to him. Lord Wapol, we have a major problem. Wapol turned sharply. What is the matter now? The soldier pointed a trembling finger down the coast toward the hidden cove. The pirates, the ones from the other day. Their ship is docked right over there. Wapol's face turned completely red with rage. What? Not them. What on earth are the Straw Hat Pirates doing in my country? How dare they come here after pretending they didn't even know about this place? Do they just not care? My jaw still hurts from that attack. Go kill those pirates right now. I demand it. And bring that girl with the blue hair to me at once. The soldier rubbed the back of his neck nervously. Actually, Lord Wapol, the ship is completely empty, sir. Wapol blinked. Where are they? We don't know where they went, the soldier admitted. Wapol exploded in anger. Do you want to be executed? Chess quickly stepped in to calm him down. Our deepest apologies, Lord Wapol. Please forgive him. Rimuru sneered at the scout. This man is just a useless, incompetent subordinate. Wapol scoffed, crossing his arms. Tisk, Rimuru Chess report. Chess bowed slightly. We took the liberty of inspecting the footprints leading away from the vessel, and we have gathered some valuable information. Rimuru added, Indeed, it looks as if the footprints are headed directly toward Bighorn Village. Wapol smiled menacingly. Very good. That was absolutely brilliant. In that case, we are off to Bighorn. We'll stop there first to fire a grand salute to the glorious restoration of the Drum Kingdom. As Wapol and his heavily armed men began marching aggressively toward Bighorn Village, a badly injured citizen from the coast managed to crawl away, dragging himself toward Cocoa Weed Village to warn the rest of the island of Wapol's terrifying return. Back on the mountain slopes, Luffy, Rimuru, Sanji, and Nami were still pushing forward. After fighting off the initial wave of Lapons, they looked back and couldn't see any more creatures pursuing them. Sanji let out a sigh of relief. Good, it looks like they're finally gone. Luffy grinned. All right, we lost them. Suddenly, Rimuru's massive dinosaur body skidded to a halt. Nope, they're right in front of us. Luffy and Sanji looked ahead. To their dismay, the entire horde of Lapons had moved ahead, blocking the path far up the trail. Luffy groaned, they just don't give up. Rimuru stared directly into the eyes of the scarred boss Lapon, wondering what the rabbits were planning next. Instead of attacking, the horde of giant rabbits began jumping up and down in unison, stomping heavily on the snow. Luffy tilted his head. Why are they jumping up and down? Are they just grouchy because they're hungry? Sanji frowned. I don't think so. After a horrifying second, the heavy vibrations registered, and Rimuru's eyes grew wide with pure panic. Sanji, Luffy, hold on tight." In a flash of light, Rimuru rapidly shrunk down, changing from a Brachiosaurus into an agile, swift Tyrannosaurus Rex, immediately turning around and sprinting away at full speed. The sudden change in momentum almost caused Sanji and Luffy to topple completely off their back. Luffy yelled, holding onto Nami, "Rimuru, what's wrong?" "They're trying to intentionally trigger a massive avalanche," Rimuru roared over the rushing wind. Luffy called back, "Can't you just turn into a bigger dinosaur?" "The Brachiosaurus was my biggest form," Rimuru yelled back frantically. "But at this close distance, the volume of snow is going to get so massive that even that form would get completely buried and trapped." Behind them, the Lapons smirked, leaping out of harm's way as the heavy snowbank fractured. A colossal wall of white snow broke away, triggering a thunderous, roaring avalanche that chased them down the slope. Sanji shook his fist in pure rage. "Damn those stupid BUNNIS, I'm gonna kill THEM." Luffy screamed, "Run FASTERRIMURU." "What do you think I'm doing, you idiot?" Rimuru screamed back. As Rimuru sprinted desperately, the roaring wall of snow rapidly closed the distance, threatening to swallow them whole. Thinking fast, Rimuru leaped as high into the air as they could. Releasing the T-Rex form, they shifted back into human shape, instantly growing a pair of massive, leathery pterosaur wings from their back. Rimuru transformed their arms into long, flexible slime tentacles, securely snatching Luffy, Nami, and Sanji out of the air. Scanning the chaos below, Rimuru spotted an uprooted tree sliding rapidly on top of the snow and descended, landing them squarely on the trunk. Sanji, catching his breath on the sliding tree, yelled over the roar, "Couldn't we have just done that from the start, Captain?" Rimuru snapped back, steering the tree through the debris. "I was planning on carrying you guys once we reached the base of the mountain. 3 grown people are already too heavy for me to carry 4 long distance, even with dinosaur wings." Luffy held tightly to Nami as the tree slid wildly. "So what do we do now? Even if we don't sink in the snow, we're going to keep sliding rapidly the mountain unless we do something." Sanji braced himself. "We gotta think of something. It's all because of those damn bunnies. The next time I see them, I'm gonna turn them into." Before Sanji could finish his threat, Rimuru shoved his head down aggressively. A wild Lapon, caught in the slide, leaped directly over them, narrowly missing Sanji's head. "Keep your heads down," Rimuru ordered. Suddenly, multiple Lapons came sliding down all around them on shattered debris, launching vicious attacks as they rode the avalanche. Luffy yelled, "What do we do?" "Slide FASTER," Rimuru yelled back, trying to outmaneuver them. Sanji kicked a piece of debris away. "What the hell is their problem?" The group began sliding even faster down the steep incline to avoid the swarming Lapons. Suddenly, a massive, immovable rock formation emerged from the blinding snow directly in their path. Luffy screamed, "We're gonna crash." "I gotta do something," Rimuru thought frantically. Before Rimuru could act, Sanji moved with incredible speed. Grabbing Rimuru, Luffy, and Nami simultaneously, he used all of his leg strength to launch them safely over the rock. Sanji smiled fiercely, shouting through the wind, "You better keep Nami safe, Luffy." Rimuru and Luffy screamed in horror, "Sanji." Rimuru and Luffy crashed safely onto the flat top of the rock formation, while Sanji was instantly caught by the crushing wave of snow, sinking completely into the white void. Rimuru scrambled to the edge, tears prickling their eyes. "You dumbass. Warn us before you do something like that, you jerk," Luffy roared in sheer panic. Luffy immediately stretched his arm deep into the rushing snow to grab Sanji's hand, but as he pulled back, he realized he had only snatched Sanji's empty glove. Rimuru and Luffy's voices echoed out over the roaring mountain in pure desperation. "Sanji." Meanwhile, far on the other side of the mountain, Zoro was still completely lost. He continued his vigorous training to stay warm until he suddenly felt the ground shake beneath his feet. Zoro paused, looking around. What's going on? What's with all this rumbling? He slowly looked up the steep mountainside. To his utter shock, a massive wall of snow from the triggered avalanche was cascading directly toward him. He tried to turn and run, but it was too late. Within seconds, the roaring wave of white completely buried the swordsman under feet of heavy, freezing snow.